Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Thunder Today YouTube channel. I am your host, Dylan Hibbard, and in today's video, we're going to go over why I think Isaiah Joe could be one of the bigger X factors for the Thunder in the upcoming season. We'll dive into all of his stats and all of that includes that. We will also look back at the Caruso and Giddey trade and just kind of dive in more into that and see whether it was a win-lose trade, win-win, and all of that. We'll also talk about if the Thunder can make 70 wins this upcoming year and what the Thunder will have to do to get to that 70 win mark, which only two other teams in history have gotten to. And then we'll talk about at the end a trade that I saw on the internet that is quite possibly one of the worst trades the Thunder could do, but it's just so bad I wanted to talk about it and kind of make fun of it and see what you guys think along with it. But first off, kind of talking about why I think Isaiah Joe could be a really big X factor. And Isaiah Joe, as we know, is the quote-unquote sharpshooter for the Thunder. He's by far the best shooter on the Thunder, and he's the three-point specialist that we have coming off the bench. But as we saw in the playoffs, especially towards the end of the playoffs, towards the Pacers series and all that, we didn't see much of Isaiah Joe at all. And I think that really comes down to, it feels a lot of times like Isaiah Joe is so hit or miss on his games. It feels like if he goes out there and makes his first two threes, or even his first two shots, maybe a layup and a three, it feels like that night he could go 5 for 5 from three and be the difference maker in a game. But then there's other nights where he goes out there and he misses the first threes, for his first three shots, whether it's 3 threes or a couple of layups or whatever. And if he misses those first couple of shots, it just feels like his confidence is not there, and he could go out there and shoot 0 for 10 from 3. And it feels like a lot of, he just needs to have that confidence of, even if he goes out there and his first 4 shots are all missed from beyond the arc, we have to realize that he at least has to realize that he's out there to shoot threes and shoot them at a very high clip. And even if he misses the first few, we need to make sure that he has that confidence to go out there and continue to shoot it, because we know as the Thunder's biggest weakness for their team throughout at least what we saw in the postseason and going into this season is their three-point shot. And the Thunder just don't shoot a lot of threes. They shoot them, but when they shoot them, they can shoot them efficiently, but we just don't have people that will constantly chuck up threes like that outside of Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe's really the one guy where it feels like anytime he touches the ball from beyond the arc, he will shoot it. And for me, he's going to be a big X factor because of the fact that we don't have a lot of three-point shooting. And now with the loss of Thomas Sorber, I feel like we're going to be running a lot more small ball lineups, especially against certain teams. He's going to be out there a lot, and especially throughout the regular season. We saw him play a bunch throughout the regular season and have games where he goes off. It's just, for me, he needs to have that confidence of, if he misses his first few shots, realize it's okay and not let that bleed into the second half and where you're shooting another 0 for 5 from 3 because you're not confident that you made your first few shots. So that's going to be a big thing, and that's why I feel like Isaiah Joe can be a big X factor. He gains that confidence. He can really stretch the floor out for the Thunder and be an elite three-point shooter like we know he can be, and maybe he earns some playing time in the playoff a bit more through this postseason run than what he did in this most recent postseason run. But now we'll kind of transition into talking about and looking back at the Caruso-Josh Giddey trade from last offseason. It was a straight-up 1-for-1 Giddey for Caruso. And when it first came out, a lot of people were thinking, surely the Bulls at least got something other than just Giddey for it. Maybe they got a couple of second-round picks or maybe even a first-round pick, but they got nothing. So a lot of people think now, especially with Caruso being so crucial for the Thunder, that it was an absolute steal for the Thunder and the Bulls got absolutely screwed out of this deal. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. We saw from Giddey in this season with the Bulls that he was able to go out there and he was really a good player for them at the point guard position. He was out there averaging near a double-double, and that's great to see for Giddey out there, a guy who, yes, we weren't able to really get him to the potential that he had here with the Thunder because it just feels like he was a bit behind in his defense and the lack of shooting three was really what it came down to, and we were able to get a guy who is so defensive oriented and can shoot the three at a pretty efficient clip. For Giddey and the Bulls, I think it was a great move as well. You look at Caruso, who's an aging guy, wasn't in the Bulls timeline, and now you get a guy like Giddey who's young, who you can build around for the next few years, and a guy, I mean, you saw the half-court shot game winner. That was the highlight of his previous season, was the half-court game winner. Unfortunately for them, if they lost that game, they would have ended up with the same pick the Mavs did that jumped up to number 1 for Cooper Flag. Obviously, we don't know if that would have happened, if they would have been in that spot. But still, if Giddey doesn't hit that half-court shot, they're in the spot where the Mavs are. Maybe they are the team that jumped up to 1 and gets Cooper Flag. And then you have a core of Giddey and Cooper Flag for the next 5 to 7 years that you can really build around. So I don't think this is a win-lose situation at all. I really think it's closer to a win-win than a win-lose for the Bulls, just because of Caruso not being on their timeline and the Thunder being able to benefit off of that, and the Bulls benefiting off of the Thunder really not having a spot for Giddey, a young guy who the Bulls have allowed to take over the offense, be a ball handler, and go out there and really showcase his skills to the max potential that he couldn't get with the Thunder in that case. But now we'll kind of transition in talking about what the Thunder have to do to finish with more than 70 wins and if they will do that. And only 2 teams in history have reached that 70-win mark, as we know, the 73-9 Warriors in 2016 and then the 96 Bulls at 72-10. So it's not an easy mark at all. You really can't lose back-to-back games at all, quite literally, because you really need to go on, it feels like, a 10-game win streak, lose a game, 10-game win streak, lose a game to get to this 70-win mark. And for the Thunder, it's going to be very tough because you have the Western Conference that is so insanely deep. Granted, if you were playing in the East, you could say it's almost a lot for the Thunder to get that because the East is so much weaker than the West. But I mean, I think it really just comes down to health and if the players actually want to go for it. Because it gets to a point maybe in the last 2 weeks of the season, say the Thunder are just going absolutely nuts, say there's 8-9 games left in the season and you're at 65 wins, do you go for the final 9-game stretch and try to go 5-4 or at least 6-3 in those games and rest a few people? Or do you at least go for the 70 wins, and once you hit that mark, that's when you can start resting people, depending on also what the Western Conference standings is looking like and best record in the league. Obviously, I don't think anybody, if the Thunder are getting near 70 wins, I don't see another team in the entire league that's really going to be that close to them. But if for some fact there is another team, maybe you have to keep playing towards the last week of the season because you need that best record in the league, because we've talked about it before how the best record in the league, especially for the Thunder, is so clutch because you're able to get games 1, 2, 5, and 7 all at home. And games 1, 5, and 7, it feels like, are the 3 most important games in the series most of the time. And being able to have that in the Paycom where they're without a doubt you have the best fans of the league at your disposal right at your home court makes the whole world of difference. So for the Thunder, it really is coming down to health. Will Chet stay healthy? Can Hartenstein stay healthy? How is J-Dub's wrist going to hold up? We talked about it yesterday. Is he going to be fully healed coming into training camp, or is it the thing that we worry about that could linger throughout the beginning of the season and kind of cause problems toward the end of the year when they're banged up? And it also comes down to younger guys like Topic and Mitchell who are coming off of the bench for the Thunder. Can they be big providers right off rip for the Thunder? If Mitchell goes out there and does what he was doing to begin last season, and we have Chet out there who's going out there and averaging 20 and 10, without a doubt, and maybe you start off the season 25-2 and something, and then there's a very real possibility of that happening. But I feel like with the Western Conference and how good it is, you have teams like Nuggets, Thunder, Rockets right there up with the Thunder. You have the teams right behind that like the Wolves, Grizzlies, Clippers, teams like that. It just feels like the Thunder won't necessarily be going that hard as they were last year, and I don't know if I see the Thunder eclipsing that 70-win mark unless it's really just one of their goals to go out there and get to that 70-win mark. I just don't really see it happening for the Thunder at least this upcoming year, especially with how everybody's going to be giving it their best every single night against the Thunder. And finally, we'll transition into talking about the trade idea I saw for Sabonis online. And once again, I want to preface, this is not my idea. I just saw it and I thought it was a terrible trade, and I just wanted to show you guys what they thought about it. And it was a trade for former Thunder player Domantas Sabonis on the Sacramento Kings. They're saying at this point the Kings are pretty much needing to do a retool, especially with De'Aaron Fox down in San Antonio. Maybe Sabonis could get shipped off. And in this scenario, they have the Thunder giving up Isaiah Hartenstein, Cason Wallace, Nikola Topic, and 3 first-round picks for Sabonis. And for me, that's just so unbelievably such an overpay for the Thunder. Now, I could see the fact of maybe you want to do a Hartenstein and a few picks like that, maybe the Hartenstein and 2 or 3 first-round picks, but having to give up Topic and Wallace, a guy who was in the starting lineup of Game 1 for a championship team, a guy who is one of the best defenders in the world, who has really gotten better with his shot and is really shooting the 3 well. And Topic, a guy who has such high potential, was going to be a top 3 to 5 pick in the draft before his injury. The Thunder were able to get him at 12. I just feel like for the Thunder, that's such an overpay, and I just don't think the Thunder really fits Sabonis now with Shea taking over and you have the big 3. Sabonis is a score-first kind of guy now, especially in the low post, and I just don't feel like that's the way the Thunder operates. So, I mean, it's kind of a crazy trade idea. I feel like that's one of the worst-case scenarios the Thunder could have been, giving up 3 high-quality players and 3 first-round picks for just one guy who we're not even sure would fit well with the team. But that'll be it for me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. It helps out the channel so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.